G'day, how are you doing? Hopefully doing well, we're keeping you safe. I'm doing pretty good on this side of the desk. Today we are going to look into the Asus Zenbook 14 Flip OLED. This is a 14-inch 2-in-1, which that means it can do pretty much your nice little clamshell. You can also flip the back of the display into tablet mode, and of course you could have got these good old temp modes if you want to use it, or even a presentation mode, which is pretty much have it flipped around the back. I've actually people quite use this as a third display. If you've got a docking station and two monitors, people actually have use that, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, the OLED at the very end, of course, implies that this has an OLED display, which have really nicely matured with Asus. Now, they were probably one of the first to actually bring this technology out in their laptops, and they're bringing out a lot of their range, and this is one of those that's just nicely mature. Now, we are going to test out the display, and I'm going to say I love the vibrancy, the brightness, and all the sharpness. You also get some pretty decent refresh rates of this OLED display as well. So really love this OLED, and of course we're going to have a look at the battery life there. Now we're going to look at the temperatures and fan noise, and we have to also, being a 2-in-1, has pen support, so we're going to do the line jitter test later on in the video. And as always, I will be putting timestamps along this video so you can skip to a different section that you may be interested to save you time. The display is a 14-inch 2.8K OLED display. It has an aspect ratio of 16:10 and has a maximum peak brightness of 550 nits. Now, it has very narrow bezel, which is a bit of a surprise for a 2-in-1, as generally most 2-in-1s have a little bit larger display just when it's in tablet modes that you actually don't get into touching the display, which is a bit of a surprise for this Zenbook 14 Flip. Asus has put in Gorilla Glass as the touchscreen protection, as it does support multi-touch. It means it also has a very glossy finish. Because of the gorgeous vibrancy of the colors and also the sharpness and the brightness of the display, I didn't have any issue at all with the reflections that actually come from a glossy display. Now, working in outdoors, I also, again, because of the brightness and the colors, it was just not an issue at all with the reflections. I didn't find the reflections at all distracting. Measuring the color gamut coverage of the 2.8K display, it resulted with 100% sRGB coverage, 94.4% Adobe RGB coverage, and 98.9% DCI-P3 coverage, which is actually high enough for photo and video editing tasks. This is a recording from the 1080p webcam from the Zenbook 14 Flip OLED. This is the video and audio analysis can hear and see what the quality of the webcam is like. As always, for this test, I've got two types of timer turned on. I've got my one stereo light turned on, and also the downlights in the room turned on for ambience. I'm going to turn off my one stereo light off to see what this looks like. Now, the two downlights in front of me is a bit far away, so there's not much light here on faces. I consider it a dark environment. And just seeing how this adjusts, it actually adjusted slow, but it actually adjusted pretty good and just nice and gradual, which is actually really nice to see. And I think the actual colors is pretty doing well, and also, like I said, this is a dark environment. If you're in an office environment, you should have much more light than currently at. I'm going to turn my one stereo light back on. You'll see this adjust. Now let's see how this adjusts, especially with the extra bright light, and I think it did very well. This is with the noise suppression on, and I'm going to just turn that feature off now so it has no noise suppression. So this is without the noise suppression, and I'm now just going to turn it back on. See how that runs off. And now this is with the noise suppression all back on. Definitely love to see what your thoughts are. As for the keyboard, the last couple of reviews, I haven't really covered much about the keyboard, and they generally feel very similar. But these keys on the Zenbook 14 Flip, these have a very different feel. Keys, they are what I say medium large size keys, and they have a very smooth surface to it, but it's actually the key travel. These have a lot more key travel than a lot of the other ones I've been playing with. And also, it's the pressure of depressing these keys. You have quite a bit of resistance at the start of depressing the key, and then it gives away. I wouldn't say these have that tactile feel like gaming keyboards or cherry keys. These have a very different type of feel, but in saying so, these are quite quiet keys, and they have a nice really feel to typing away once you get used to this double pressure resistance. As for the trackpad, these are generally nice highlights of the Zenbooks, as they have a dual function on the trackpad. Now, these are mechanical trackpads, so they change at the top and depress at the bottom, but what's really nice is that dual function of being able to bring up the number pad by just pressing on the top right hand corner, and you'll get the number pad, and you can always depress it again and it will disappear. Love this innovation from Asus, and it supports multi-gesture and has this glass silky smooth texture to the trackpad. The weight of the Asus Zenbook 14 Flip is 1.52 kilos, plus the 65 watt power adapter becomes a combined weight of 1.85 kilos you might be carrying around with you. Zenbook 14 OLED comes with a 75 watt hour battery. Now I managed to get 11 hours and 6 minutes for the Modern Office battery life test in PC Mark 10, and 3 hours for gaming, and also 11 hours and 11 minutes for video playback on the Procom battery life test. Now I consider this pretty much all day battery life on this on an OLED display, which is absolutely fantastic, because traditionally OLED displays do suck up more power from a lot of my other experiments and tests in the past. So I think Asus is actually getting better and better with its OLED technology and actually making the battery last longer. Absolutely fantastic. There are two speakers located on the bottom front on either side of the Zenbook 14 OLED. When I tested out the maximum volume of the speakers, it managed to measure in a peak of 86.5 decibels. Now consider this in the medium range. It is decently loud, and you should be absolutely fine doing presentation outdoors or at a cafe area. So that's good to hear the actual speakers have enough volume. Now as for the sound quality of the speakers, it has actually got quite a bit of bass. Now we've got fantastic clarity from the mids, and it is biased towards the lows and mids. Try and take a little bit of advantage of that bass. Now it's not that punchy bass, but it's got enough bass to be happy with, and I've got to say it's got good acoustics and reverb. They're actually nice, decently sounding speakers from the Zenbook 14. Now looking at the build construction of the Zenbook 14 Flip OLED, it's pretty much made of aluminium at the top, which is absolutely great. Aluminium at the bottom, and also the palm rest in the keyboard area, and also along the side. So you get this nice premium feel to it. Now, as for my good old bend test, you can try to see this. Oh, that's not really bending, and I'm twisting it as well too. That's not really doing that. So it has very good weld construction here. Now, also just giving the actual keyboard a little bit of a push there. Now I think it has actually got very nice structure. I don't really feel it pushing or flexing down there now, so that's really nice there. And also let's do just having a look at the hinge. So I've got my one finger. Let's see how this hinge goes and if it is smooth. Now I'm just lifting up. That is gorgeously smooth here. It is actually doing all the way through, and I feel very consistent all the way through to about here, where it just lets go a little, which is quite normal for a 2-in-1 to do. And of course, being a 2-in-1, it will flip it on its back. Now the hinge it's got this nice shiny sort of brush aluminium look to it. I can see it's like a double fold, and it is very well constructed there, I've got to say. I can see also it goes all the way to the edge here, because I can see there's just a little parts of the hinge will probably go all the way around here and along to this side here. So it actually is a very large hinge. That's my guess here anyway for it, but I think it is going all one big rod that goes across here, which is really nice. But I can see this can actuate very well, and it does also. You'll see it also, it's got rubber bits at the just on the sides, two sides here at the back, which means it actually lifts up the laptop as you actually open it up. If you're in clamshell mode, just to lift the bottom up, just so you actually have a little bit more angle for your when you're typing in keyboard in the clamshell mode, and also just to give a little bit of room to let it breathe, as this is where the input air or the cool air comes in, and then it spits out on one side here. As for the temperatures and fan noise, when I took my measurement, the ambient room temperature was 20 degrees Celsius, and the ambient room noise measured in at 35 decibels. And as always, just to give you a reference point, your average hand is anywhere between 33 to 35 degrees Celsius, so average around about 34 degrees Celsius. So I took my base measure when the computer was idle, and the hottest area around the keyboard area measured a maximum of 29 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, well, it's pretty much dead silent at 35 decibels. And average internal core temperature was 36 degrees Celsius. Then I put 20% load on the computer. It's pretty much average use. So it's tasks like office productivity work, surfing web, streaming video, and the hottest area around the keyboard measured a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, well, still dead silent at 35 decibels. and the average internal core temperature was 48 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on the computer, and the hottest area around the keyboard area measured a maximum of 36 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it spun all the way up to only a maximum of 36 decibels. So you barely still hear this fan at 50% load. And the average internal core temperature was 59 degrees Celsius. Then I put 100% load on the computer, and the hottest area around the keyboard measured a maximum of 41 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it spun all the way up to a maximum of 46 decibels. And the average internal temperature was 70 degrees Celsius. I also measured the bottom back cover while I had 100% load, and the hottest area measured a maximum of 41 degrees Celsius. So I really don't advise putting this on your lap while this is running 100% load. I also put the Zenbook 14 in tablet mode with 20% load for average use, and I measured the display side with 20% load, and the hottest area measured a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it's still measured in a dead silent at 35 decibels. Now the fan is spinning, but it's just that quiet. And the average internal core temperature was 47 degrees Celsius. Now as for the keyboard side, measured in a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius in tablet mode. I must admit that the Zenbook 14 is pretty much a very cool temperature wise laptop most of the way through, even including while it's in tablet mode, and very quiet all the way through as well. Now even if you put it 100% load, it's still not that loud at 46 decibels. Let's have a look at the performance of the processor of a lunar duration tasks. Now this Zenbook 14 Flip is configured with an i7 1360p processor, and Windows report this processor has a base clock speed of 2.2 GHz. So we want to see this above 2.2 GHz. Now I've got pretty much 100% load on the processor, memory, and quite a lot of load on the storage running as well for over an hour. I can see the speed of the processor is ranging anywhere between 2.4 to about 3 gigahertz, and it pretty much just ranges there. It doesn't really have one constant processing speed, and which means I'll just average around about 2.6 gigahertz is what I'll probably average it at. And I can see the actual speed, the temperature of the processor is anywhere between 68 degrees to about 73 degrees Celsius. So we've still got quite a bit of headroom there, which is absolutely fantastic to see. So knowing the speed of 2.4 gigahertz is above the 2.2 gigahertz, so we don't have thermal throttling, but we do have a bit of turbo throttling happening, which is kind of expected for a thin slim laptop here. Here's the results of the benchmarks performed on the Zenbook 14 Flip. This one's configured with an i7 1360p processor with 16 gigs RAM, 1TB SSD. And here's the results for pass mark, Citybench R23, PC mark, 3D mark, Geekbench, Crystal Disk Mark, Procon Office, Pugin Photoshop, Pugin Lightroom, Pugin Premiere Pro, Pugin DaVinci Resolve, Blender, Vermark, Eugene Engine, and SpecView Pref. The Zenbook 14 LED does support digital stylus. Now it may also come with the Asus Pen 2. Now this is actually quite a nice pen. It's black all the way, and it is rechargeable by popping the top up, and you can actually charge by USB-C, which is great to see, so you don't need to buy extra batteries for it. Now there is a button at the top which you can actually customize for either a raise. It also, hold it down, it will also do the Bluetooth connection to the Zenbook 14. It also has two customized buttons at the sides here, and we've got also quite a bit of nice little nib here. Now it does support 4096 levels of pressure, and we're going to actually do the line jitter test now. So I'm just going to have one hand palm on the display, and we are just going to try and do the diagonal lines. Now I think this is actually doing pretty good. I'm not doing it really slowly. I think this is actually doing really well actually here. For me, I find this very nice. So I'll just do one more. And I'm just going to bring in a ruler. Now I'm just going to keep just one hand touching the display, and we'll just do this. Sorry, that's my fault moving the ruler, and that's because I'm just going over the hinge at the moment. So this is it with the ruler, and I'm going to have my second hand on touching the display, and also the palm of this hand touching the display, and see how this reacts with that. That is actually, this is like 2 points of contact for rejection, and that's pretty good. Now I'm just going to do some horizontal lines. So my hand is a little sweaty, so it is gripping just a little, and this is a glossy display. Do some quick lines here. I'm going to do my swirls. I'm just doing my best. Now just remember, I'm not a digital artist in any form. And I'll just do another swirl here. We're actually doing pretty good. It's following well. And I'll just test for the parallax. Now that is following pretty quickly. I don't feel the lag between it. As mentioned, it also has pressure support. So I'm just going to do light touches, pushing into the display, light, pushing into the display, light, pushing into the display. And I'll just do some writing. Overall, with the Asus Zenbook 14 Flip OLED, I've pretty much got one word for it, and that is superb. It does everything right, and I really can't critique it that much because, quite simply, it has all the features you need. It has a good amount of ports, which pretty much covers all your bases with a fantastic construction with aluminium, and the weight is pretty decent for what it is. It's not really super thin, but hey, we've got our ports, which is what I really like more than actually the weight itself. Now we also have a beautiful, gorgeous display, and we have the functionality of this tool, which has pen support, and pretty much we've got very decent speakers and a nice webcam. I don't know what you can pretty much ask for. And we also have a really nice keyboard to actually type with, quite a lot of key travel, which is a bit of a surprise there. And also that nice trackpad, which has that dual function of having a number pad on that trackpad. Really love that innovation from Asus. Now, as I always say, this is a superb laptop, and really can't go wrong with getting one of these Zenbook 14 Flip OLED. And I think it's a nice, decent price there. Now, I hope you find this video informative and enjoyed it. If you did, support my channel, smash that like button for me, and share this video. It also gives me a little bit of hand there. And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. And I'll see you next video.